Hi, and welcome to Artisan Stories. I'm Jill Roberts, and today I'm here with...
Marianne Houde from SouLstice Kombucha.
Hi, Marianne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. I was on your website a little bit today, and it seems like you have a very interesting story. You started in winemaking, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And now you do, am I saying it correctly? Kombucha.
Kombucha.
Tell me a little bit about what that is, because I think a lot of people may not even know what kombucha is.
Kombucha is fermented tea. And because it's fermented, it's very good for your digestion because of the probiotics that you
Okay.
gain from the yeast and the bacteria that are inside.
What was the switch from where your journey started in winemaking? And then I even read that you did a little cake decorating. You had a cake decorator. How did that
Yeah.
lead you to here?
I've been always working with my hands. I was a hairdresser at one point when I graduated high school. I just love working with my hands, creating things that way.
Okay.
And because wine is a fermented beverage, kombucha is fermented, it was really easy to make that transition from one to the other.
Okay.
But going from wine to kombucha was really my daughter's doing.
Okay. Tell me about that.
She works for a naturopathic doctor, and the doctors would always bring her kombucha during lunch. So she was bringing all these bottles of this beverage, filling up our refrigerator, and I didn't know what this thing was. I didn't even know how to say it. I didn't even know it existed, although it is an ancient sort of beverage. It's like from 221 BC
Okay.
is how far back they can figure that kombucha has been around.
Wow.
So I asked her, Sarah, what is all this that you keep bringing home? And she told me kombucha. I'm like, what is that? Like, okay, kombucha. She said it's fermented tea. It's good for your gut, probiotics, good B vitamins, more healthy than soda. So, of course, I had to taste it because there was like 5 different flavors that she had. And I went like this. Oh, what is that? Because it's fermented, it has like a vinegar taste to it. So it's kind of on the sour side. I asked her, like, why do people drink this? She explained the health benefits to me. And then when I looked it up, I realized that it was fermented. So I figured if I can make wine, I can probably make kombucha. So I ordered my glass jar there and got my little SCOBY. And the SCOBY is where the yeast and bacteria are in.
Okay.
And I just decided to do a test batch in my house. And I realized that I just loved watching it transform from tea to this fermented, sour, vinegary type beverage.
So you brought this jar today. Is this part of the process? Is this what you're explaining to me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically make a big batch of sweet tea.
Okay.
And then you take this starter liquid, which is basically very robust, strong, sour kombucha. And then you add that to your sweet tea. And then you put a SCOBY in, it's actually called a pellicle. It is a cellulose mat that grows on top of the ferment.
Okay.
And
Is that what we see floating around in
yes,
there? Okay.
it's just a natural byproduct of the fermentation.
Okay. Okay.
And so watching it transform like that was just so interesting to me. And then what you do afterwards is you flavor it with fruits or herbs or anything that you like.
When you're flavoring it with fruits, are you cutting up the fruits and putting it in there? Are you mashing it in there?
Well, after you decide that it's to the liking that you want, the sourness, like it loses some sweetness because of the fermentation.
Okay.
The yeast that's in there consumes the sugar and converts that to alcohol. And then the bacteria that's also present in there will consume the alcohol and convert that to acid. And that's how you get that sour vinegar type flavor to it.
I would imagine that consistency is critical. Like, how do you keep each of your batches, and especially with flavors, consistent?
I'm always testing. There's a pH balance, there's the residual sugar that you test. But for the home brewer, you just taste it, see how you like it, and
Okay.
then you can go on to add your flavors to it that way.
You were making it out of your home. What at that point, you make a step at that point and you decide to go farther with this? What makes you decide that?
It was time for me to move on from wine just because I was making people happy by getting them drunk. And I wanted to make people happy by getting them healthy,
Yeah.
because I have a friend who came down with COVID. She was suffering for a long time with the long COVID, having a lot of digestive issues, and I was making like 5-gallon batches at home at this point. I went from 1 jar to 4 jars to then 5-gallon buckets. So I decided to just give her some of the kombucha to see if that would help her feel better. She didn't actually taste it right away because, again, she was afraid of it, kind of knew that it was sour and didn't really know how to handle drinking it. She held on to it for about like a month or so. And she said finally, I took a shot of it, like in a little cup like this, and she said, I don't know what's in this thing, but it makes me feel better. And that's when I knew I have to do this. So I pursued looking for a place in Wallingford, and I quit my job and I went down to Florida for 3 weeks to try to get my head together and figure out how I was going to do this, write a business plan. And then I came back and I just started playing around with a bunch of flavors and figuring out what I was going to make for like my first 4 core flavors that I wanted to always have.
Now, you mentioned that your friend started with doing a shot of it. I have to admit, when I've had these, we've exchanged at farmers markets because we know each other from there. I will drink a whole bottle because it's so good. I think I've had this one here, and there's another one. Your website talks about that there is no correct proportion. Like, you don't have to do a shot. Is that right? Is that what you recommend to people?
Yeah, it's whatever your body feels like it needs.
Okay.
I can drink a whole bottle. We usually have, my family and I, after dinner or during dinner, we'll drink probably a whole bottle between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
People can substitute their sugary drinks with kombucha. You can drink it like soda. Or you can use it more as a functional beverage and just drink it before you're getting ready to have a meal, or after, or whenever you're thirsty, or if you don't like water too much, you can have kombucha instead.
I didn't find it sweet, and I don't like sweet beverages, so I really enjoyed it. I'm not a drinker myself, so I enjoyed it as like somebody would a cocktail in the evening. It was really, and it's refreshing. One of the other things I really liked was your labeling, and I liked the little messages that you have on all your bottles. Are they different messages, or are they on each one?
Yeah, each one has a different.
What's one of your favorite ones? Where like this one says, "Don't wait for the stars to align. Reach up and arrange them the way you want them." What's the inspiration for that, and where did those come from on the bottle? And tell us a little bit about your design.
That inspiration came from tea, the tea bags. A lot of tea bag companies put the little quotes on the tea bag tag.
Okay.
The base of it is tea. I thought that would be pretty cool.
Yep.
To give someone an inspirational message. Whoever drinks this, picks up the bottle, they get a little, maybe they need to hear something like that, So
Right.
that's why I decided to put the little inspirational quotes on there.
This is more about, it's a body wellness. It's a lifestyle, right? It's a promoting. I know you write a little bit about your love of looking up at the stars and how obviously that was an inspiration for your name, right? The SouLstice.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that and how that inspired the labeling. And
My husband did design the labels. He's a photographer and a landscape photography artist. He's very good and very crafty with his computer and all kinds of anything digital. We did have the logo designed by an outside source, and then we tweaked it a little bit on our own. Because he's a photographer and we have photography friends who do astrophotography and landscape, the bottles are going to have photographs on them. And this one is a photograph of Mackenzie Reservoir in Wallingford at nighttime. And that's why this one is on the Starlight bottle, because if you look very closely, you can see the stars sort of shimmering in the back of this background here. We just thought it would be nice to feature our town as well as give some of the artists we know some recognition.
So that's the one you're starting with, and eventually they're all going to capture some type of name. That's neat.
The blue moon, we're going to have a full moon photograph on this. When I have to go to reorder the labels again, that's going to change just a little bit. And we'll do that to everyone as we need to.
One of the other thing I liked about your products is that you recycle the bottles. People bring the bottles back,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Does everyone end up doing that, or do a lot of people end up recycling them on their own? Or
Not everyone brings them back, but I do hear that they use them for putting flowers in. They really like that you can fill these with water. We do get a lot of bottles back. I do reuse them. And it's great because the labels they stay on the bottle. I don't have any problems with them being sanitized or wearing or anything like that. So it's really great to keep those out of the landfill. I'm really happy that people have embraced that, and because they are wanting to keep the earth clean,
Right.
it's just a great thing for everybody.
And getting back to your story, so you end up transitioning. You have a storefront in Wallingford, correct?
Yes.
And you also are at farmers markets, the Durham and the Wallingford
Yes.
market. That's a lot to grow to that point. What were some of the challenges you faced getting into an actual storefront?
We wanted to start slow and grow slow. We introduced at the Wallingford Farmers Market. The response was phenomenal. People couldn't believe that there was kombucha made locally. They were just so excited because they can buy it in the store, but they didn't know that there was anything that was local. And I'm the 4th company to open in Connecticut. It's not a very popular beverage right now in the state, but it's slowly growing and picking up steam. So people were ecstatic that they could find this in central Connecticut. Right before the market ended, we constructed a small counter area in my facility. And so now customers can come in on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays and grab and go.
Okay.
When the market ended, they were still able to get some product.
When did you first start selling at the Wallingford market?
The middle of July.
Oh, so this is recent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we opened in June of 2022.
Okay. And you also do deliveries, correct?
Yep, we do deliveries, and we're also in some of the local grocery shops around town and coffee shops around in the surrounding towns. So we're slowly growing some retail partners as well.
Okay. How has it changed your life?
It's great. I mean, I have the freedom now to make my own decisions, just to be in control of my time.
Where do you
It's
see it
wonderful.
going?
I'd like to see it grow a little bit larger, but I don't want to get too big where now I have to scale up so much that I have to do outside distribution with a different company. I want to keep it local. I want to keep it centrally located in the state. I think every company has their place, and my place is Wallingford and the center of our state. If I have to start doing outside distribution, I think I would be too big. I don't think I want to get that big, but I don't know. We'll see.
You never know in business,
Just never
right?
know.
There's so much uncertainty when you're starting out. So tell us about this large bottle you have back here.
That's a special edition that we did for Valentine's Day. And during the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we also did special flavors, and we put them in the 750 milliliter bottles to be more special occasion looking.
Okay.
And it was a real hit. People loved it. They could go to parties and they could feel included even if they weren't drinking any alcohol, because a lot of people drink kombucha because they're not drinking alcohol. So this was a way for them to be included in the party and share something healthy for their family and friends and things like that, give them away as gifts. So we do special flavors, we can do custom labels, and we can do catering for parties and weddings and things like that.
These are the 5 that are here are the flavors that you always have.
Mm-hmm. I have 6 flavors actually. I don't have one. One is
Okay.
still fermenting right now.
How long does the fermenting process take from start to being bottled, and how long does this last?
Smaller batches, like in the 20-gallon, those take about 2 weeks to ferment, and then it goes into the fridge for 1 week, and then carbonates for a day, and then it can be bottled. So within 3 weeks from start to finish. The larger batches, which I do in 40-gallon batches, those take about a month. So 4 to 5 weeks for those from start to finish.
So is there an expiration on these? Will they
They don't really expire. They'll just continue to get more sour because it's there's no preservatives and it's not filtered. So it's a living beverage. The yeast and bacteria will continue to slowly ferment even though it's refrigerated. So the best by date is about 8 months.
Okay. And it is important to always keep it refrigerated. So I
Yes.
imagine that's a challenge for you too when you're selling it outside of the storefront.
Yeah, it is. Refrigeration is a little bit of an issue. I have a small space, but right now it's manageable.
Okay.
But yeah, in the summertime when we do the markets, it'll definitely be on ice.
Who is your demographic for this item?
It's amazing because I have little kids who come to the market with their parents, and they're like 7 or 8 years old, and they're just drinking this up like it's soda. And then I have senior citizens who just love it. But the demographic really is people who are suspicious of things that are not real in their food or beverage, fake coloring, fake artificial flavoring, things like that. So
Right.
people who want to eat a more healthy, clean diet are the ones who are more conscious about drinking kombucha.
And I imagine once they start, they continue to come back to you because they see it's making a difference in
Yes.
in the way they feel.
Yeah, for sure. I
Right.
mean, I've had several friends and family, they're like, I'm never going to drink that. And then, I bring them a bottle every time I see them, and they have to drink it, and they'll like get used to it. So it's like, yeah, you acquire a taste for it, for sure.
What help do you have with this? Is it just you at this point doing all this?
I have my husband who helps me with all the labeling and things like that. I have my daughter who also helps me with the markets and the storefront. But really, all the making of it is just me right now.
And you can handle that at
Yes,
this.
I can handle that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Very good. You mentioned being in retail, some retail spots. How did you expand that way? And are you looking to expand into more stores?
Well, through the farmers market, I met the owners of East Center Market, a little grocery store on Center Street here in
Okay.
Wallingford. And they were one of the first ones who reached out to me asking if I did distribution. So once I was up and running and I had the correct labeling and everything that was approved from the Department of Consumer Protection, I was able to distribute to them. And then Cafe Luca Bella, the new coffee shop that opened up here in town, right down the corner, they reached out to me as well. I have a lot of local people who are wanting to support local Wallingford business. And then the new cafe, Bones and Botanicals. They're actually making cocktails and mocktails with kombucha.
Excellent.
And then there's other surrounding towns, like other coffee shops and small grocery stores who also carry it. I do reach out to select places that I think it would be good in, and most of the time I say yes.
And you're doing the deliveries as well.
Me,
And
my daughter, or my husband will do it.
the people that buy from those places can also return their bottles to those.
They can, but they mostly don't. Any outside distribution, unless it's like the coffee shops or the salad places, like BMUs, we just started with them as well. If their customers are drinking the beverage at their place, they can leave it there, and then when I make another delivery, we'll just pick up the empty bottles.
Okay. You did say these are non-alcoholic, but there is a certain amount in the fermentation process that does create a small amount. Is that correct? Did I read
Yeah.
that somewhere?
Yep, because there is sugar and yeast. Sugar and yeast together will make alcohol. When I put air into the mix, that's when the bacteria that's in there. So you have yeast, which is the lactobacteria, lacto-fermentation, lactobacillus, I believe is the name of the yeast. When that yeast consumes the sugar, it will create a small amount of alcohol. When you stir the batch and introduce air, then the acetobacter bacteria will start to consume the alcohol and turn that into acid. And that's how you get that vinegar type flavor.
Okay. But
But it's not as sour as vinegar, it's not as acidic as vinegar.
okay.
So there is a trace amount of alcohol, but it's not anything near where like a beer or anything like that. So it's essentially non-alcoholic.
Yes, it's considered a non-alcoholic
Yes.
beverage. Okay. And what's your most popular
The Blue
flavor?
Moon.
The Blue Moon.
The Blue Moon. And then probably The Starlight and the Summer Triangle, probably the three top.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about each flavor, what each one is called, and what you're using to get that flavor?
The Summer Triangle was the first flavor that I started with, and that was the one that my family just absolutely loved when I was making it at home. So I knew that I had to make that in bigger batches.
Okay. And what goes into that one?
That is a base tea of 70% green tea and 30% black tea. And then it's flavored after it's fermented with raspberries, lemon juice, and ginger, all fresh and processed right in our facility.
Okay.
The same thing with the Blue Moon. That's the base tea with blueberries and lavender syrup. And then the Phoenix, the SouLstice, and the Starlight are all herbal blends, and they're all separate fermentations. And there isn't anything I have to add to those except a little bit of ginger in the SouLstice.
Okay. Is there any other flavors that you plan to introduce, or?
I have one other one called Twilight, and that is butterfly pea flower with lemon. And that's a beautiful purple color that people just go crazy over. I try to do a monthly flavor, something different for the seasons or the month. So
Okay.
we'll be coming out with something for the spring.
Okay. And this is the only size that you can get unless you're doing something in the bottle.
I have the
with some-
16-ounce bottle here, and
Okay.
I have a 32-ounce growler size, which is basically,
Is that the one that's up on the shelf?
yeah, that
Yeah,
size
okay.
there. It's
Okay.
basically two small bottles here,
Oh, okay.
same size.
Okay.
People like that one too because it's larger quantity, less packaging.
So once you open it, will it go bad soon after you open it, or can you open it and then have it
It
in your
won't go
refrigerator?
bad, but it might lose a little bit of the carbonation if
Okay.
you don't keep the cap on tightly.
Okay. So once you open it, how long will it stay good for in your refrigerator?
8 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
a long time.
Okay.
It won't really go bad. It'll just get a little bit more sour as time goes
Okay.
by. Yeah, it's a really cool setup, a really cool concept.
Yeah, I like that. We know each other from the Durham market, and I know when I brought it home and I sampled it, I didn't know what it was about, or I just said, oh, let me try this, and it's a unique flavor, but it's enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
A lot of people comment who have had it before. They either had it and don't like it because it's too sour, or they don't really know what it is. So when I give them a sample for them to taste, they are pleasantly surprised that it's not as sour as they would get in a store. And the reason for that is because it's local and it's fresh. The stuff that you would buy in the store, you don't really know how long that's been in the bottle, and it's mostly made from the West Coast side and then trucked over to the East Coast. So you don't know what happens in between that supply chain from one spot to the
Right,
other.
or the temperature control too.
Right, it has to stay cold the whole time, so.
And thank you so much for joining me today and telling us about your products.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I wish
It
you
was a
I
pleasure.
wish you the best with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today on Making It Artisan Stories with Marianne Houde.